this is one of the most important concepts that we are discussing here in this session for the entire SAP community, SAP consultants, anyone who is associated with SAP must be knowing these concepts. These are extremely important concepts. Now, this is a migration of the entire system from, say, SAP ECC, or we have SAP R by 3. Even before this SAP ECC was there, we had SAP R by 3. In R by 3 4.7 EE is the edition that we have. So these are the various versions that we have. So we have the migration project. So in the we have to move from this old versions to SAP S by 4 HANA. Now we all know that there are a lot of features for S by 4 HANA. The first and foremost important thing is that runs on HANA database. Okay, this is a fundamental difference, and the ECC or R3 system might run on any SQL system, SQL database, or Oracle database, or something like that, right? Okay. So this is what we have. ECC also can be on SQL or Oracle database, but here, when it comes to this S by 4 HANA, we have this HANA database, which is something which is fundamentally different from the previous one. We need to make sure that our system is compatible, or our code is compatible with this HANA database. Now, when we move everything from ECC to S4 HANA, we have various options in which we do it as a project, and in which first we'll understand in general perspective, and then specific to a particular module like a web. But before that, we are discussing something which is very common, and which is something which every consultant or every person who is working in SAP must be knowing it. That all the softwares needs to be moved to HANA database sooner or later. And for specifically for ECC to be moved to ECC or R3 or even older version has to be moved to S by 4 HANA by 2025. Initially, they gave the dead end as to the 2020. In 2015, they gave it as 2020, and then they extended that to 2022. And looking at the pandemic and all, they extended it to 2025. And this is the final date. After 2025, what SAP says is, we are not going to support it. Now, what do I mean? What do we mean by support? Let's say you face some genuine issue in the SAP software. Say in the ECC software, we have genuine issue. I mean, like something is not posted, or some malware has got updated, or something happened, which was something to do with the software. Now, SAP company will pitch in here and will fix that issue by giving you a patch. Okay, that patch is called Note. Here we call this as Note. So this is like you have a software upgrades in your mobile and laptops, right? So same way, we have some upgrades or patches that needs to be installed. Those are called notes here. And that note, when you install or upgrade, when you install that note in your server, automatically that issue will be fixed. And this support is given by SAP. And what SAP says is, after 2025, they are not going to support the old softwares. For example, today, can anyone of you name a bike? Any bike which is popular? Okay, I'll take one example here. I'll take an example of say there was something called Bajaj Chetak. This was a scooter in India. So manufacturing of this scooter stopped somewhere in the more than a decade back. So let's assume that it was stopped in say something like 2005. So if it stopped in 2005, what the company Bajaj company is going to declare is we're going to stop the manufacturing of this, and we are no more rolling out this scooter, but the spare parts in the market, the genuine spare parts in the market will be available till 2010. After that, we are not going to support this product. You got my point. So in the same way, SAP says that the old versions of SAP software are no more supported. Means whatever happens, whatever issue happens, you need to handle it on your own, and SAP is not going to support it. If there are already issues, if there are already patches, you can go ahead and install it. Okay, SAP does not deny it, but going forward, it will not support new upgrades and new things in that. Okay, you understand this concept, right? So now in SAP S/4 for HANA, which happens to be the flagship product of SAP, is been completely marketed, and it's presented to the client as if it's mandatory. So we need to upgrade. So after 2025, no one should be on the old software is what SAP says. But that does not mean that all the companies will upgrade, because if let's say just for example, again, if you go back to Bajaj Chetak, if they have stopped manufacturing in 2005, people who were already driving it will not throw it away outside. They're going to use it for a couple of years till it runs, right? So same way here, even though SAP strongly recommends all the clients to upgrade to S/4 HANA, there might still be some companies who will work in ECC and R/3, and there is every chance that in the future that you might be working on support projects. Support project on ECC. This is done. This can be done. Okay, now what are we focusing on here is that if let's say assume that a company has decided to move from ECC or older version to S/4 HANA, then there are various options here. Now there are latest version of ECC. If SAP, I mean like if the company, if the client, okay, can we take a client as BMW? BMW is already running on SAP ECC. Now, if they would like to upgrade to S/4 HANA, they have lot of options here, and we are going to explore those options. Okay, so BMW can now install and configure S/4 HANA in various ways. One is completely new implementation. Now, if it's a new implementation, say for example, if a client is working on very old version like R3, SAP R/3 4.7c, this is a version name. Okay, if this is a very old version, and its advanced version, its next version is ECC. If they are working on R/3, it's not possible for us to migrate from R3 to S/4 HANA. So they need to go for new implementation. That's called greenfield project. Greenfield project. It's called greenfield project. This is called greenfield project. So in greenfield project, what happens here is like we kind of have an complete new one. You have to start everything from scratch as if it's a new project. That's called greenfield. Now we have migration project. Now in migration project, what happens is that's called migration of SAP migration. That's called brownfield project. So when you say brownfield, it means that you just have to migrate from the old version to latest version. We just have to migrate. That's the meaning of it. Fine. So we need to be so. Why are we discussing about this? Is just as it just now as I told you, we SAP strongly recommends all the clients to migrate to the S/4 for HANA. There are some around 4 lakh implementations by SAP. Okay, 4 lakh implementations. Even if 50% of them will migrate, there will be 2 lakh projects. Okay, 2 lakh projects on migration. Even if 50% of them migrate to the S/4 HANA. So in this, there are a lot of migrations which happen and they are yet to be happening. There are a lot of companies who are planning to do it and they have not done anything in the pandemic situation. So there are a lot of companies who are still have to migrate to S/4 HANA. Okay, so most of the times most probably you will be working in either in support project or a migration project. So we need to understand a lot clear about the basics of migration project. So support project, as you know, you can guess by the name that support means what. If there are any issues in a software which has already been implemented and running, then we need to go and fix it, right? So that's support project. Migration project is moving everything from old to new. If it's a greenfield project, that does not come into migration, because if it's a too old software, we have to do everything from the scratch. But if it's a recent one and which is compatible, then we can go for brownfield project. That's a migration project. When we go for migration project, again, SAP has got various options like your software, hardware, everything can be kept in the on-premise. I think we have already discussed this on-premise, on cloud implementations. And other than this on-premise and cloud, we also have hybrid, right? So we discussed about this, right? Okay, we just had a word about it. Okay, so we are going to discuss this more in detail now. So here we have the different SAP S/4 HANA editions. Now we have SAP S/4 HANA edition on on-premise cloud, and then we have HANA Enterprise Cloud. So on-premise cloud is something wherein, if let's say if the company is not comfortable keeping everything, all the information in the public cloud, they can go for private cloud. So that private cloud is nothing but the on-premise cloud. Okay, so HANA Enterprise Cloud is something which is very much flexible, on-premise and cloud edition. Okay, so we have three ways of S4 HANA migration. So we can do the migration to private cloud, public cloud, or hybrid cloud. Okay, so if it's a cloud deployment, on-premise deployment is still there. That option is still there on-premise. But if you are considering the cloud deployment, then either you can go for public cloud or private cloud, or you can go for a piece of everything in private cloud and a piece of it in the public cloud. And then we can go ahead in on-premise as well. So these are the various things in which we can go ahead in the deployment, do the deployment. So these are the cloud deployment models, wherein we have the private managed cloud, public managed cloud. So these are cloud deployment models of SAP. So let's say if they are implementing it from the scratch. Okay, we are discussing about, let's say if they are implementing from the scratch, then we have various offerings which are given, like uh, now we have a platform as a service. PaaS stands for platform as a service, and SaaS stands for software as a service. Now the client need not buy everything from the SAP. They can just uh, take the subscription. They can just pay the subscription and they can access these systems. And SAP, the cloud company powered by SAP HANA. So we have this HANA Enterprise Cloud and we have the HANA Cloud Platform. Now when it comes to migration, okay, So that is about all about the implementation part. Okay, we just had a quick review of implementation, but our focus is on migration. So when we want to migrate uh, to from our normal ECC system to ECC system or SAP normal SRM system, CRM system, these are all the scenarios which we already have in the companies, and that needs to be migrated to the S4 HANA platform. So if it had to be migrated from to SAP S4 HANA platform, which is a simple one. Okay, so all these things which we were using is they are complex. Now, why do we call them as complexes? Because the organizations are using ECC software, CRM software, SCM software. These are all the different softwares that they are using individually, and they again migrate, merge the data, integrate the data. But whereas when it comes to the S4 HANA platform, we can just have a hybrid accelerate innovation, and shared governance. This is what we have. So it's everything starts with HEC. Okay. Now, what is HEC and what exactly we do have in HEC is what we'll see now. But this is something which is a part of this. Now, have any one of you heard about the Amazon Web Services or AWS or Azure cloud computing? So, did any one of you? Yes. So, we are going to come to that now. Okay, we are going to understand that. So we have the HANA Enterprise Cloud, in which we have the security as individual, infrastructure and cloud managed services, enterprise applications, and enhanced managed services. These are all the different things that we have in a SAP HANA Enterprise. So HANA Enterprise Cloud offers peace of mind. Like everything will be taken care by the by SAP itself. You don't have to worry about the security. You don't have to worry about the service levels. Security is taken care by SAP themselves, and service levels are extremely high. They'll always have backups and all managed services. So they all have the managed services. Not only SAP, see, a company can go for various ways of cloud services. Either they can go for public clouds like AWS or Azure, the Amazon Web Services or the Azure, or they can go for SAP's cloud offering, or the company can build its own cloud platform and then they can put it there. It will be a costly affair if they try to maintain cloud in their own system. They can go for on-premise also, but there are again drawbacks of on-premise which we already discussed. We are going to discuss about that later. So the SAP cloud service follows your business. This is what we have. So these are the application management services for HANA Enterprise Cloud. These are the implementation scenarios. So this is the 43% of the HANA Enterprise Cloud run this business suite powered by SAP HANA, and 450 plus HANA Enterprise Cloud customers globally use 32% include SAP BW, Android, SAP BI. So three ways of migration. This is very important. So these are the deployment options. One is the on-premise deployment, another is the cloud deployment, another is the hybrid deployment, which is a combination of both on-premise and cloud. So why SAP? It's simplicity, experience, optimization, peace of mind, the foundation of innovation. So for HANA, one code line, different products. One code line, different products. We have SAP Business Suite, S/4 HANA Cloud Edition, and On-Premise Edition. So we have the Cloud Edition, we have the On-Premise Edition. So a company can go for any one of them. So in the classical Business Suite, they had only it was database independent at the time. Now, the migration which we are talking about can have various ways of migration. So if it's like, example for existing SAP customers, a new S/4 HANA system with initial data load. So if everything has to be done completely from the scratch, then we have new implementation, and then we have the system conversion. System conversion is like they were already using some business suite which is compatible with S/4 HANA. Then we're going to go for system conversion. Then we have the landscape transformation, wherein we are going to move from all the different ERPs to the cloud platform. So this is a transition to SAP S/4 HANA. So we have this legacy system, non-SAP system, to our S/4 HANA system, wherein we have the SAP HANA database, S/4 HANA software, and SAP Fiori as a front end. These are the things that we have. We have on-premise edition and we have the cloud edition. So we have something called system conversion. So we can go for system conversion, like, we just focus on moving everything from this database to that database. But when you do the system conversion and all, some are compatible, some are not compatible. So we need to handle that non-compatible programs or developments into, again, we have to rebuild in the S/4 HANA platform. This is the landscape transformation, wherein we are going to move everything from landscape transformation from all these ERP systems, multiple ERP systems to one single S/4 HANA system. So transition to SAP S/4 HANA, we can have, so rule of thumb is either we can go for cloud deployment or on-premise deployment. We have transition scenarios differ with respect to amount and type of data taken over. So what is data migration? So data migration is the process of transferring data between the storage types, formats, or computer systems. It means hard disk to hard disk kind of a thing. It is a key consideration of any SAP implementation, upgrade, or consolidation. So here you cannot just directly simply do the migration to move or transform one system to another. It is to ensure that the moved data is of high quality, is fit for use, and supports the underlying business processes and operational goals of the organization. So data migration is not a one-time event. It's something which we have to take care of, as a regular basis in some cases, because see, sometimes what happens, data will always keep building in other non-SAP systems from where we have to migrate the data. So data migration, you can think of data migration as if the data transfer. But then when we are doing the migration project, it's not just the data that we are migrating, it's the entire process. So what are the major drawbacks of migration project is more than 80% data migration projects run over time and over budget. Cost overruns 30%, time overruns average 41%. So what happens here is we normally think that we just move it from there to there, just copy it, but it doesn't happen so simply because there are a lot of compatibility issues that comes in. So it's actually underestimated. So that because of these experiences in the migration project, most of the companies actually go ahead with the with a new implementation. So when we are going for the migration, we have three scenarios. One is new implementation, that's called greenfield project, and then we have system conversion and landscape transformation. Okay, so if it is migration, it's called migration project. That's brownfield. And additions, as we already discussed, on-premise cloud, on-premise HANA Enterprise Cloud, on-premise HANA Enterprise Cloud, and cloud. So if you are going for landscape transformation, we have two options. System conversion, we have two options. And when we have this new implementation also, we have two options. So there are various tools which we can make use of to do the migration. So they are like SAP Data Services and SAP Landscape Transformation, SLT, SAP Landscape Transformation, Embedded Migration Cockpit. These are the various options in which we can move it. And Software Update Manager with the Data Migration option. This is what we have. And System Landscape Transformation, SLT. So we have this SAP Data Services. So in the SAP Data Services, we have various systems from which we move the data and we get into this SAP system. Okay, so we can get the data from any of the systems, any of the SAP systems or non-SAP systems, move it through the data services. So data services is a tool. Data services is SAP tool which allows us to move everything from any system to our SAP system. Let me just quickly tell you about one story about data services. Actually, this story helps you to understand uh, the working strategy of SAP. See, SAP had got one very bad remark in way back in 2000 that the entire software is good, but the front end is very bad. So most of the people didn't like the front end. So now we have Fury, right? So they immediately wanted to move it, change that. Okay, at the time we had BW. BW was the software, just like ECC is a software, BW is the software. So BW software, but for BW software, the front end tool, the reporting tool was Bex. Bex. Now, other than that, we have what you call that's about BW and Bex. But then people didn't like most of the clients didn't like Bex. They said it's not that good. Then what SAP did is they went ahead and purchased a company called Vivo. Basically, Vivo had front end and back end. So just like SAP had front end and back end for BW reporting, means the back end is BW and front end the data used to be seen in Bix. So in the place of Bix, they wanted to bring in one very good reporting tool which can show the data in a very flexible and very futuristic and impressive way. So they wanted to acquire this Vivo. But Vivo was a full-fledged company. It was not just a reporting tool. They had BobJ in the back, BODS in the back, and then Vivo in the front end. Just like BW had, SAP had BW, that company had BODS, and they also had Vivo reporting tool. And they had a lot of companies, they had a lot of customers, and also had a lot of employees. It was a big enterprise. Vivo business of this entire company was a very big enterprise. So SAP gave an offer that we would like to purchase this entire company. Okay, so let's say if you have a very good business which is running fine and you're earning crores in cash every month, and somebody comes and says that I'm going to purchase your business, what are you going to say? You're going to say just leave. Okay, I'm not going to sell it. So this Business Objects company, the entire Vivo company, was very stringent on not selling it. They even tried to insult SAP also, but SAP was very focused on purchasing that company, and they insisted that, and they gave a kind of amount which that company cannot make in next 100 years also. So they offered near about to 90,000 crores in Indian rupees. This much money can buy you 14 countries. What you can do in 14 countries? You can be the B.R. Ambedkar of that country. Means you can write your constitution. Okay, so if let's say this is Rohit's countries. So Rohit can say whatever constitution he want to write every day. He can change the constitution and say that all the all the all the citizens should bow to me. If they don't bow, cut their head. Okay, or like then no, not bowing. Just they have to wherever they see me, they have to salute me. Okay, fine. So anything can be made. That's the power of that money I'm saying you. Okay, that much amount they invested just to acquire this company. Everybody said it, they are too crazy. They're going mad. They have gone mad. They have a lot of cash and they've gone mad. But SAP at that time was in a verge of losing their business in this BW, and at any cost they didn't want it to happen. They immediately wanted to replace this, and even if they manufacture a best reporting tool also, it will take some time to prove it to the clients, and they didn't have the time. So they wanted to acquire something which is number one in the world, or the best in the world at least, topmost in the world, so that the client auto gets confidence. So from 2007, they started insisting to buy it from 2005, and from 2007 to 2010, it was almost like a forced acquisition. So they forced their company and acquired that company. Even fought a lot of legal battles and all, and finally they got that into clearance in 2000, say somewhere around 2005 to 7. Between that, they started implementing this view. And then see, this Vivo was only the front end tool, right? What about the back end? BODS. At that point of time, this was completely comfortably kept aside because their intention was to only get this BO reporting tool. So what they did is, instead of throwing away this BODS concept, okay, BODS stands for Business Objects Data Services. So this was used to migrate or to transfer all the data from any different systems to our BODS system. So they use this data transfer concept. Okay, so this BODS now they renamed it as only DS. They removed this business objects because they don't want to. So they call it as data services, or they call it as SAP Data Services. And what does the SAP Data Services do? SAP Data Services actually takes care of all the migration. So now when you see the data services here, you can understand that that's actually a part of that. This data services which you are seeing on the screen is actually that one. Now that BODS is named as data services, now it is being converted as SAP Data Services. And this has got the same features. Everything was just dubbed from there, and they use it for getting the data from outside to SAP systems. Now again, data services is one of them, right? To move the data. Now there is another technique called landscape transformation. We have another technique called landscape transformation. So migration to SBI for HANA on-premise edition. So we have rapid deployment solutions, accelerate time to value. overview of these three implementation scenarios. So we have this data migration. Please remember that migration project is different, data migration is different. Okay, when we talk about data migration, we have various tools. In that we discussed just now that for data migration, data services, that is SAP Data Services is also one of them. And the another concept is landscape transformation. So landscape transformation technique is different, and data services concept is different. Landscape transformation was actually been implemented by SAP, means it's something which is developed by them. So making use of the landscape transformation, we can get the data from various systems to our SAP system. There's a new implementation, data migration to SAP S5 for HANA Cloud Edition. So we're talking about the data migration. So when we talk about the data migration, we have different techniques. And what are the techniques that we have discussed in now is data services and landscape transformation. This is SLT, landscape transformation. Then we have data migration. So this is a tool, landscape transformation tool. When we get the data from various systems, it might be the SAP system also, through LAN or WAN. It's a network. From there we can get the data and configure it and then process it, and then we can get this. So this activate is the methodology. It's the roadmap which SAP has introduced to go for the new implementation of SAP. So we're going to come back to this activate methodology. We will understand how exactly we are going to do this activate methodology. It's a roadmap. It's a roadmap in which we can implement the SAP system. So let's say now, let's say like if I don't know a particular route. Okay, so I just need to go from MG Road to beach. Okay, so how do I travel from MG Road to beach? And I'm asking the Balasaran route, and he said one route, but this is the way you have to go. So Balasaran has been moving in that road for almost 10 years, so he knows which road is the best at what time. But that does not mean that I can reach the beach only in the road that Balasaran has suggested me. But Balasaran has suggested that's something which he feels that is the best. That's it. But that does not mean that that's the only way. Similarly, SAP also laid down a roadmap, and this roadmap actually defines what needs to happen and how it has to happen and in what way it has to happen. But that does not mean that that's the only way. We can go for other ways also for implementation. This is just a roadmap, and SAP also gives some kind of a documentary help or monetary help every kind of a help if you are stuck in this model. So we're going to do, this activate methodology is something which will be used for implementing a new project. Okay, so look into that later. Activate methodology, I'm going to explain that later whenever we have that in the content. Okay, so if you haven't yet subscribed to our channel, please do subscribe at youtube.com/shadesoftech. It helps you to get alerts whenever there's a new video that gets uploaded, so that you get a reminder of it. In case like you're looking for some trainings, you can contact us at training@richards.com. And kind of if you're looking for job change, you can email us your resumes to jobs@richards.com. Thank you. Have a great day. And do share this videos with your friends. It might help them as well.